What's going on, everybody? Christian Ballard here, Ballard Sports Media, coming at you with a quick college football video today. And today, I'm going to be talking about some potential first-year playoff teams in 2020. Let's get into it. All right, so we have seen quite a few teams make the playoffs multiple times. Ohio State made it the first year. They made it a couple years after. I mean, they've made it 3 times. Bama's made it every year except for last year. Clemson's made it every year, except for the first time in the playoff. Bama and Clemson are pretty much tied for the most playoff appearances. 5, right? Now, LSU. Look at LSU. They made it into the playoffs last year as the number 1 seed. They did nothing last year other than win a bowl game against UCF, right? That's it. Finished second in the West, behind Bama. That's about it. Had some good wins. They went 15-0 last year. First time ever making the playoffs. Never really been a top 10 team except for the year prior when they played Alabama or whoever, a couple times. And they go on and they win the title. First time make the playoffs. They had the Heisman. I mean, it was a generational or once in a lifetime type of team. Right? Well, what about 2020? If LSU makes the playoff for the first time in 2019 and goes and wins it all, could we possibly see something like that again in 2020? Let's look at it. So this isn't necessarily like, teams that can make it for the first time ever and then go on and win the title. This is more so a case for top 5 first-year playoff teams in 2020. Now, there's quite a few that I wanted to put on this list, but I went with my gut and picked the top 5 that I thought had a great chance, right? Now, I'm trying to think. I guess I'll start at number 1 and go down because the last 2 are like potential wild cards. Now, you're probably going to hear 1 or 2 teams in here you might not agree with, but I wrote it down and I made a really good case for these teams. At least so I feel. But all right, so let's go ahead and get into this.
That's fine.
First team on the list. I'll start with number 1, and I'll work my way down to number 5 because, like I just mentioned, 4 and 5 are like wild card type of teams or whatever. But number 1 on the list for a possible first-year playoff team in 2020, meaning this team's never made the playoffs, but they could probably make it for the first time this year. First team on the list is Penn State. I mean, they're the second best team in the Big Ten right behind Ohio State, but it's pretty close. One thing that sticks out, Ohio State in Happy Valley this year. You want me to go on? James Franklin is recruiting at a very high level in the Big Ten. The only thing is lately he's had a hard time getting over Ohio State. Now, they beat them in 2016, haven't really beaten them since. But if you look at history in Happy Valley in the past couple years, now I know 2016, 2018, and now 2020, but it was still pretty close even in 2017 when it was in Columbus. Then it was close in 2018. It was close every time except for last year when Ohio State only won by like 14 or 21 points or something. James Franklin is recruiting at a very high level. The only thing he has not done, except for his first or second year, right? And this game kind of put him on the map was the 2016 Ohio State game. But ever since then, he's recruited so well. He's competed. He's beat teams like Michigan, right? Listen, they have Ohio State early in the year. They tend to lose that game. Then somewhere along the road, they lose another game, right? To a somewhat big-time target Big Ten team. But this year, it's kind of an easy path. It's such an easy schedule, right? It's an easy path to the playoffs. You pretty much have it easy, except for Ohio State. Now, I think you got Michigan on the road, right? But you've handled teams like Michigan before. And I think they're going to be a better team than Michigan anyway. Sean Clifford is returning, right? You got so much returning. Journey Brown, you have Tariq Castro-Fields, who decided to come back instead of going forward with the draft and going in the draft in 2020. He comes back. I mean, I could go down the list. Who's that one defensive player? He's got a really cool name. Shaka Tony. That's it. Shaka Tony. He's really talented too. They got so much coming back. You know, the only thing they have yet to do is get over Ohio State. And like I just mentioned, they've had trouble on the road, right? It's like the curse of the Buckeyes or something. They lose whether at home or on the road to Ohio State, and then somewhere else they lose on the road to another Big Ten team. Last year, it ended up being Minnesota. I actually think they lost to Minnesota first on the road, and then they lost to Ohio State, but either way, right? They have so much coming back. And Sean Clifford played really well last year. He's got a heck of an arm. He's got great leadership. I think that's a key factor for the Nittany Lions this year. And, I mean, listen, Ohio State lost quite a bit. They lost Jeff Okudah. They lost Chase Young. They lost J.K. Dobbins, right? So, you know, and not to say they're not going to be good, but they got to replace quite a bit. Justin Fields is like the best thing they got right now coming back, plus a couple key receivers. Give credit where credit is due. But Penn State has a chance to go 11-1 or 12-0. I don't think they lose 2 games. I really don't. I had them 11-1 when I did the preview video. I think the only reason why I picked Ohio State to beat Penn State anyway was because I didn't want to sit here and not pick Ohio State and then look stupid because Ohio State won, right? But I still give Penn State every chance in the world, and I don't see it being, you know, a blowout or anything. If Ohio State did win, it would come down to the wire, and Ohio State would just find a way to close it out. I'm not saying who's going to win that game or not, but Penn State makes a really good case this year for the playoffs. So much returning, pretty easy path outside of Ohio State, and Sean Clifford is just a really great mobile quarterback with a strong arm, and he has proven, and he proved last year, that he could take over for a guy like Trace McSorley, who's now in the NFL, like the Ravens or someone, right, behind Lamar Jackson. He came in and he had great leadership, and that's what I like about Sean Clifford, and I think that's a key factor for the Nittany Lions in 2020. Number 2 on the list, this should not be a surprise to anybody, Florida. Kyle Trask. People say Kyle Trash as if he's a bad quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback. He's got a great arm. Florida has finished second in the East the past couple years. They just can't get past Georgia, but they have guys with experience to come back and, you know, learn from, you know, whatever they did wrong the year before. They can build off of it. Dan Mullen is recruiting at such a high level right now. He's in, year 3, I think, going into this year. He'll be in year 3. He's been recruiting so well so far. And look at what he's done in his first 2 seasons. A 10-2 record after a 9-3 record. You know, I mean, so Florida, I mean, they are somewhat of they are a favorite for the East, right behind Georgia. And I think if there's any year for them to get past Georgia and win the division this year, or what I'm trying to say is if there's any year that they win the East and get over Georgia, it's probably this year for Florida. They have guys with experience. They got Kyle Trask. And Georgia, look at Georgia. I think they're going to be great, but we still don't know who their quarterback's going to be. And they got some other positions with some question marks. They lose quite a bit on defense. You know, now they bring a lot in. They had the number 1 recruiting class. But it's a lot of young, inexperienced talent on defense and on offense. They lost 2 or 3 offensive linemen. So Georgia's got some holes to fill, right? They still got to figure out their quarterback situation. Most likely it's Jamie Newman. Florida knows they got their guy in Kyle Trask. Question is, does Georgia have their guy in Carson Beck or Dwan Mathis or whoever? And again, most likely Jamie Newman. So, and Florida could run the table. I don't see them losing 2 games. I could see them maybe losing. They could lose to Georgia. That could be their only loss. And they could be one of the best one-loss team there is. They make a pretty good case to be a first-year playoff team and to be a playoff team in general for 2020, I think. So that's number 2 on the list. Number 3, I'm not sure if this will surprise you or not. Baylor. What? What'd you say? Oh, I said Baylor. Yeah, Dave Aranda from LSU, the defending champ. This was the defensive coordinator. Matt Rule is out. He goes to the Panthers. The defense was so great in 2019. Imagine getting a head coach who is mostly defensive minded, right? Bring that guy in. It could be even better. This is a guy that helped LSU go 15-0. He was a part of this team. Now, mostly defense, right? Defensive coordinator, but still. They had a bunch of defensive guys that were really elite. You bring him in as a head coach, imagine how much better the defense could be, because Baylor had a pretty good defense in general last year. Charlie Brewer, quarterback for Baylor, helped them go 11-3 last year, just 2 years after a 1-11 season in 2017. Turns it around big time in just 2 years. Counted 3 years, because this is 2020. 3 years ago, they went 1-11. They made it to the Big 12 championship last year. Now, I know you're going to say, well, the Big 12 doesn't have any defense. They don't play defense. You can't. I've never seen a team just like that go 1-11 and then 2 years later go 11-3 and flip it around. Jonah White, Quaylon Jones, if I'm saying that guy's name correctly, are both redshirt freshmen. And they lead a deep and clean running back position. And it's one of the best in the Big 12 right now, it's looking like. They almost beat Oklahoma twice last year. Oklahoma is elite, and they're pretty much the best in the Big 12 with Lincoln Riley at head coach. They've had 2 straight Heisman winners. Almost had 3 straight, but Joe Burrow won the Heisman last year. Jalen Hurts had a really good chance to do it. And this is Baylor, who almost beat Oklahoma last year. And Oklahoma, by the way, won the Big 12 and made the playoffs. So it's just. So, I mean, they make a really good case. Am I saying they're going to make it? I'm saying they can't. Again, this is teams that could make the playoffs. They have a really good chance. So, I would say Baylor is a really good team and makes a really strong case here at number 3 on my list. Next on the list, at number 4 out of 5 teams that I'm doing, it got a little tough. But number 4 on the list is Minnesota. Big Ten runner-up to Ohio State last year. Beat Penn State in Minnesota in 2019 and went on to win the Outback Bowl against Auburn, who, they won the Iron Bowl. They almost beat Georgia. Had a close game against defending champ LSU. I mean, this was a really good Auburn team and a really good defense. Minnesota goes into the Outback Bowl in bowl season and wins a close one, 31-24 over Auburn. And again, Auburn had a great defensive line and everything last year. Minnesota pulled it out. I don't remember exactly how the game ended, but it was really close, down to the wire, a one-score game. And Minnesota beat Penn State last year, won their division, made the Big Ten championship, and only lost to Ohio State, who was blowing everybody out left and right. Ohio State, who also, by the way, went to the playoffs, made the Fiesta Bowl. Shoulda and coulda and woulda beat Clemson. of course, they end up losing because poor old Justin Fields throws an interception. So, Minnesota, I think, was a really good team in the Big Ten last year. PJ Fleck has kind of shown that he's a good coach. Good enough to recruit really well. Now, they lose some key pieces. I know the Buccaneers, my favorite NFL team, drafted a couple key players. I think Antoine Winfield, who's a safety, and Tyler Johnson, their key star receiver, is now with the Buccaneers as well. So, but I think they don't lose a whole lot. They do lose a couple key pieces. I don't think they fall off completely. I think I know I already did a prediction video for them. I think I picked them to go like 8-4 or 9-3. I didn't pick a 5-7 or a 6-6 type of season. But regardless of what records I picked for any of these teams that I previewed earlier in the a couple months ago, regardless of that, they still have good cases to try to make the college football playoff and do it for the first time. So I like Minnesota from the Big Ten there. So let's see. Penn State, Florida, Baylor, Minnesota, and then, and last but not least, number 5 on the list. I'll probably get some heat for this. I know, but this is kind of a potential wild card team, right? North Carolina from the ACC. Listen, I love how Mac Brown is recruiting right now with North Carolina. A Clemson loss that came down to a 2-point conversion last year. Recruiting is rising with Mac Brown. Like I just said, they're currently number 8 in the 2021 rankings. I know that's for next year, but they could potentially come close. Now I'll have to double check what division they're in. I'm pretty sure they are. I think they are in the same as Clemson. I could be wrong, but this is a really good team. I was surprised at that Clemson game last year. They should have won that game. I'm just going to say it, Clemson fans. You guys should have lost that game, and you could probably agree. It came down to a failed 2-point conversion. Somehow Clemson stopped it and pulled it off and won. Clemson was not looking like themselves. Trevor Lawrence wasn't. Why? Were they failing? Or was North Carolina's defense just looking that great that they only gave up 21 points in Chapel Hill? So, Mac Brown's recruiting really, really well. And again, he's like currently number 8 in the 2021 rankings. So, it's interesting. I think they have a good case to try to make it. Now, I don't think they will, because I think Clemson ultimately wins the ACC. But I think, I'm not saying don't be surprised if they do. I'm just saying for a first-year playoff team, North Carolina could be on the radar. And it's definitely a team you want to look at and watch out for. So, anyway, that's going to do it for this video. 5 first-year playoff teams in 2020. Again, run down the list. Penn State, Florida, Baylor, North Carolina, Minnesota, then North Carolina. Kind of made a case for each team, but definitely let me know what you guys think. Who do you see as a first-year playoff team? I know I didn't put Georgia in there, but that's because, again, they already made it. LSU has made it. These are teams that have not made the playoff yet, but could possibly do that for the first time in 2020. I think most likely the top 2 teams that I mentioned before were Penn State and Florida. The thing with Florida is Georgia's going to be elite and going to be great. And say the same thing for Penn State, right? These are 2 teams that are going to be the second in their divisions. Florida in the SEC East, Penn State in the Big Ten East. And they got to get past actual playoff contenders this year. I say actual playoff contenders because I'm talking Tier 1 type teams. Maybe you want to consider Georgia Tier 2, like Penn State and Florida. I don't know, but, the actual favorite for their divisions. You know, Georgia's a favorite for the East over Florida. Ohio State, slight favorite for the East over Penn State. But I think those teams could try to pull it out at some point. Baylor, again, made a case for them. Dave Aranda could help this defense out quite a bit. And, again, Matt Rule is gone. That kind of hurts them, but Dave Aranda might be a better coach. Brewer helped them go 11-3 last year after a 1-11 season just 2 years prior. And again, I made some good cases, I feel, for these teams. But you guys let me know what you think down below in the comments. Who do you see as a first-year playoff team? Do you agree with this list? Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm right as in certain areas of this. And I guess that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks so much for watching and tuning in today, and I will see you guys next time. Until then, Baylor Sports Media checking out. Y'all have a good day.